Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to everyone. I hope you can hear me well. My name is Alan Wittig. I'm Program Officer within the Secretariat of the Basel, Rotterdam, and Stockholm Convention. I'm here today with my colleague, Kay Ono, from the Secretariat. Warm welcome to everybody. We hope that everyone is keeping well and safe during these times of crisis. The briefing, today's briefing will cover, on the one hand, a briefing on the 16th meeting of the Persistent Organic Pollutants Review Committee, which I will provide. This will be followed by a briefing on the outcomes of the 16th meeting of the Chemical Review Committee of the Rotterdam Convention, which will be provided by Kay, my colleague Kay. And these briefings will then be followed by a session of questions and answers, where you'll be able to make any comments or raise questions, to clarify certain points as needed. This is the first of two briefings. The second briefing on these same topics will take place on the 12th of November, so this Thursday, at 4 p.m. Geneva time. We kindly ask you to please unmute your microphones and switch off your cameras during the time of the presentations. This will help improve the overall quality of the sound. Thank you. So let's start with a briefing on the 16th meeting of the POPs Review Committee. So the POPs Review Committee, also known as the POPRC, is a subsidiary body under the Stockholm Convention, and it has several mandates. One mandate of its mandate is to review chemicals proposed for listing in Annexes A, B, or C to the Convention. And this review is according to the process that is set out in the Article 8 to the Convention, together with information requirements and criteria that are set in the Annexes D, E, and F to the Convention. And we'll see a little later that this is basically this review happens in three steps at the committee level, and we'll look at that in concrete terms, with specific chemicals being currently reviewed by the committee. The committee is then also mandated to make recommendations to the Conference of the Parties based on this review, and it is also mandated to undertake other technical work as assigned to it by the Conference of the Parties. The committee is composed of 31 government-designated experts from the 5 UN regions, and these experts are their term of office lasts 4 years, and there is a rotation of membership every 2 years. About half of the committee members rotate every 2 years, and that's in order to ensure the continuity of the work within the committee. The POPRC meetings are open to observers, and in the context of these meetings, observers are either parties to the Stockholm Convention or admitted observers to the meetings of the Conference of the Parties to the Convention. Now turning more specifically to POPRC 16. So you may know that POPRC 16 was initially planned to take place as a face-to-face meeting in September this year in Rome in the FAO headquarters. It was supposed to be held back-to-back with the CRC 16. In June, it became apparent that this was not possible due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, and the Bureau of the committee, which is composed of the interim chair, Mr. Peter Dawson from New Zealand, and the vice chair, Ms. Svetlana Popreva from Ukraine. So the Bureau, in consultation with the committee members, agreed firstly to postpone those dates to 11 to 15 January. And in terms of the format, to either hold the meeting as a face-to-face in Geneva if that was possible, and if that was not possible, as an online meeting. In early October, the Bureau, again in consultation with the committee members and the Secretariat, came to a decision that owing to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic situation, it was not possible to hold a meeting as a face-to-face meeting on those dates. And as an exceptional measure, the entire meeting was decided that the entire meeting, including plenary sessions, pre-meetings, and contact group meetings, will be conducted online. As I mentioned, the interim chair of POPRC 16 is Mr. Peter Dawson from New Zealand. And now in terms of the more precisely looking at the dates and timing of the meeting, so in their final decision to conduct the meeting online, it was also decided that the meeting should be extended by 1 day. So now the dates for POPRC 16 have been set at from 11 to 16 January 2021. And the online sessions will basically be structured around two-hour sessions with 30 minutes break between the two sessions. The first session will start at 12 p.m. noon. This is noon, 12 p.m. noon Geneva time. And then the two sessions, then the overall 2-hour sessions will end at 4:30 p.m. Geneva time. We realize that this is not the best timing for all members or observers, but it was defined this way as it provided the best possible range within the different time zones. So we apologize for those who have to get up especially early or have to stay late, but really this was the best option that we can find for running these sessions. There will be pre-meetings held over 3 days from 1 to 3 December. And I'll get back to a bit more detail on those pre-meetings later. These will be run from 11:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. Geneva time. It should be noted that POPRC operates in the 6 UN languages. So in this online setting, this will also be the case, meaning that all plenary sessions will be held with simultaneous interpretation, and contact group sessions and pre-meetings will be held in English, only as per usual practice. You will find more information on the meeting at the website, the URL shown on the screen. And we encourage you to consult this webpage quite frequently in the coming days and weeks, as we will be posting more information as we get closer to the meeting. So I'd just like to highlight here some of the key documents that you need to review in preparation for the meeting. First of all, obviously the provisional agenda, which is contained in document 1. To note that the agenda has not been modified for this online session. It's quite a full agenda. We'll look at some of the details later. But as you will see as we progress through the briefing, the committee will prioritize its work in order to ensure that at least the items that are to be presented to the next Stockholm COP10 are able to be covered, and as much work as possible can be done in this session. Please note also the annotated agenda, which is in document 1 add 1. This is not available yet, but will be made available in the coming days. And this document provides under each item the list of relevant documents you need to study. The scenario note, there had been a previous version. It was in INF1, and this scenario note is now being revised to take into account the new format, and it will be made available shortly as INF1 1. The tentative schedule was also revised to take into account the online setting of the meeting. This is available on the website in information document 2 Rev 1. So these are really key documents for you to look at in detail so as to understand how the meeting will be run. All other documents are basically now available on the website, and for the majority they've been available actually for several weeks now. So we hope you've been able to already start reviewing and preparing yourselves for the meeting. So as I mentioned, this is now a view of the provisional agenda. As you see, it's quite a full agenda. I will not here go into describing the details of the different agenda items, but would like to point out in particular the item 4, technical work, and its sub-items. And these really constitute the bulk of the technical work to be undertaken by the POPRC 16, and I will go in a little bit more detail in the coming slides on these items specifically. So now turning to the first technical item, so to speak. It's on the consideration of a draft risk profile on the chemical Rotterdam Plus, and it's an isomer and anti-isomer. So we're at the committee is at the second review stage for this chemical. At the previous meeting in POPRC 15, the committee decided that the proposal that was submitted by Norway fulfilled the screening criteria in Annex D, and therefore established an intersessional working group to prepare a draft risk profile for this chemical. So the draft risk profile is now put forward to POPRC 16 to consider. It's available in document 2. And I'd like to point out 2 accompanying information documents. The document 14, which provides additional information on the draft risk profile, and the document 4, which provides a compilation of comments and responses related to the draft risk profile. So you're invited to consider those 3 documents together in preparing for the meeting. So during the meeting, POPRC 16 may then adopt with any amendments the draft risk profile and decide whether the chemicals are persistent organic pollutants, that global action is warranted, and if so, the POPRC may establish an intersessional working group to prepare a draft risk management evaluation and invite parties and observers to submit Annex F information on socioeconomic consideration on possible control measures. So this is now the third review step of the committee for this particular chemical. Looking at another draft risk profile, this time on methoxychloroquine. So again here, POPRC 15 decided at that meeting that the proposal that was submitted by the European Union fulfilled the screening criteria in Annex D, and therefore established an intersessional working group to prepare also a draft risk profile for this chemical. Similar to the previous chemical, the POPRC 16 is to consider this draft risk profile, which is in document 3. And you may wish to also study the information document 5, which provides a compilation of comments and responses related to this draft risk profile. Again, here, POPRC 16 may adopt with any amendments the risk profile and decide whether the chemical is a persistent organic pollutant, that global action is warranted, and may decide to establish an intersessional working group to prepare a draft risk management evaluation, and again, invite parties and observers to submit Annex F information on socioeconomic consideration on possible control measures. The third item on the technical work of the committee is a consideration of a proposal for listing UV 328 in Annex A to the Convention. This is a proposal that has been submitted by Switzerland and is contained in pre-session document 4. You'll note that in document INF 6 Rev 1, it contains the verification from the Secretariat of whether the proposal contains Annex D information. So during POPRC 16, the committee may decide whether the proposal fulfills the screening criteria in Annex D, and if so, this may decide to develop and agree on a work plan for preparing the draft risk profile in accordance with the Annex D information. UV328 is a UV absorber used in many products. It's used also as a printing ink additive in food contact materials. It is a UV filter that is used as an antioxidant for plastics and is a light stabilizer for a variety of plastics and other organic substances. Now turning to other items on the agenda, still looking now at the technical work, so those items under item 4 of the agenda. The committee, the item is on the review of information related to specific exemptions for deca-bromodiphenyl ether and for short-chain chlorinated parabens. So both these chemicals have been listed in the Annex A with specific exemptions at Stockholm COP8. And the POPRC 15 decided to establish an intersessional working group on the review of information related to specific exemptions for both chemicals as mandated by Stockholm COP8. The draft reports on the review of information related to these two chemicals are contained in Information Document 7 and Information Document 8 respectively. And in Information Documents 9 and 10, there are you'll see a compilation of comments and responses from parties and observers relating to those drafts. So at this upcoming meeting, POPRC 16 is to complete the work, to complete the reports for consideration by the Stockholm COP10. With regards to the evaluation and review of brominated diphenyl ethers, you may recall that this chemical has been listed in Annex A with specific exemptions. The COP6, the sixth meeting of the Conference of the Parties, adopted a process for the evaluation review of the specific exemptions on these chemicals, and the first review and evaluation took place at COP8 and is to take place every second COP thereafter. So the next review is upcoming at the Stockholm COP10 next year. The Secretary was mandated to prepare a report with inputs from the committee members for consideration by the COP. So this report has been prepared. It's available in Information Document 11. It's actually just been posted this morning. So we invite you to go and have a look and start reviewing this report. And then the Secretariat is to finalize the report on the evaluation based on the comments and inputs received by the committee for consideration by Stockholm COP8. Now turning to the last item under the technical work of POPRC 16, it's on the indicative list of substances covered by the listing of perfluorooctanoic acid, P4A, PFOA, its salt, and PFOA related compounds. So you may recall that Stockholm COP9 listed these chemicals in Annex A with specific exemptions. This is in Decision 9/12. And in Decision 9/13, the COP invited parties, among other things, they invited parties and others to provide further information regarding the identification of substances covered by the listing. COP9 also requested the Secretary to compile, in consultation with the committee, the information submitted by parties and observers and to establish an indicative list for these chemicals. The compilation of the information submitted by parties and others is contained in Information Document 12, that you may wish to look at. And the committee at its 16th meeting is to review the information submitted and provide comments on the establishment of an indicative list for these chemicals. Now, looking at other items on the agenda, the committee will receive a report on the rotation of membership. Here, I'd like to point out that 14 newly nominated members have started their term on 5th May 2020. So for these members, this will be their first committee meeting as a POPRC member. these members did participate as observers at POPRC 15 to get acquainted with how POPRC functions. The committee will also hear reports of activities for effective participation in the work of the committee, and the committee will also consider a work plan for the intersessional period between POPRC 16 and POPRC 17. And this is contained in pre-session document 8. Sorry, went the wrong way. Yes. Right. Okay. So now turning to some more practical information regarding participation in POPRC 16. So registration for POPRC members and for observers is required to participate in POPRC 16, including in the pre-meetings. So this is an important point. In order to participate in the pre-meetings, you need to be a registered POPRC 16 participant. Invitations were sent out, and the deadline for registrations is set as 16 November for the POPRC members and 18 November for the observers. Confirmation letters will be sent out by mid to end November as soon as the deadline has passed. An important point to make here in light of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic situation, exceptional support for the reimbursement and communications costs will be provided to assist eligible POPRC members from developing countries and countries with economies in transition to participate in POPRC 16. This is also in line with a recent UNEP policy in that regard. Details on this communication allowance will be made, and then including modalities for the reimbursement will be made available in the confirmation letters that will be sent out shortly. If you have not yet registered, please contact the Secretariat, Ms. Stephanie Cadet, at the address shown at the screen. Now, looking a bit more closely at the tentative schedule for POPRC 16, this table is basically the table that you can find in the pre-session document INF to Rev 1. What I'd like to point out here is how the sessions are organized over the week. So you'll note that from Monday through Thursday, as I mentioned earlier, the initial sessions, 2-hour session, will start at 12 noon Geneva time to 2 p.m. Geneva time. And these will be, from Monday to Thursday, these will be plenary sessions, those 2 hours, with simultaneous interpretation. And then on those days, there will be a break from 2 to 3 p.m. for half an hour. And then the work will continue in English only in a contact group setting to further discuss in detail the different topics. And these will run from 2:30 to 4:30 p.m. So this is the plan for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. For Friday, both sessions will be dedicated to contact group work in English only. And then Saturday, 16th January, will be the last day of the meeting, and it will be structured around 2 plenary sessions, so interpreted in the 6 UN languages, and this is to complete and adopt decisions, complete its work, and adopt the meeting report. I'd like to point out that although the sessions are scheduled to start at 12 noon, you are invited to connect 30 minutes prior to that. So we're looking at 11:30 a.m. Geneva time. And this is really to allow the final checks, technical checks, testing of your microphone, making sure you're heard, that you're being heard, that you can view the presentation, and so on. And this will really help have a smoother meeting in terms of these technical aspects. So you're really encouraged to connect 30 minutes before this session And as you know, on the Monday at 12 noon, there'll be opening of the meeting, adoption of the agenda, so on, and then the meeting will start actually quite sharply at noon, as there's a lot to cover. So you're really encouraged to come and join early in advance of those sessions. And what you also see here is the sense of prioritization of some of the technical items, putting more emphasis on those items that need to receive input from the committee and need to be considered by the next Stockholm COP. So now turning to the pre-meetings. So pre-meetings will be held, as I mentioned earlier, from 1 to 3 December. They'll be held in English only. They will start at 11:30 a.m. and end at 3 p.m. Geneva time. And here again, you're invited to connect half an hour before. So really at 11 a.m. you should be starting to connect to the system to make sure that the meeting can start on time. The pre-meetings provide an early opportunity to introduce and discuss the technical work. And this is with the aim of facilitating the work during the POPRC 16 sessions in January. This really was seen as really an important step in order to be able to cover as much ground as possible in January. So participants in light of this are encouraged to actively participate in the pre-meetings and so as to ensure a full and rich exchange of information, of views and comments ahead of the January meetings. And as I mentioned, active participation will contribute to the efficient use of time available during the January meeting sessions. The comments and inputs coming from these pre-meetings will be made available to the POPRC 16 meeting in January in the form of conference room papers. And either these will be a compilation of comments or also revising some of the existing documents based on these discussions. More information on the pre-meetings will be made available very shortly on the meeting of the website of the meeting, including a schedule for these pre-meetings and a list of documents. So in terms of the schedule, the first 2 days will look at the main technical work, starting with the 2 draft risk profiles that I was describing earlier. And then day 2 will be focusing on the proposal for listing UV 328, and we will hear a presentation from Switzerland in that session. And then the meeting will continue looking at other technical items. And then day 3 will be dedicated to follow-up discussions on the matters that have been discussed on days 1 and 2. So as I said, a detailed schedule will be posted shortly on the meeting website, so you can have a look at it. And I'll conclude by this presentation by giving some important practical and technical information. So for the meeting, there will be an intranet site. This is a standard site that is set up for these types of meetings. Since the meeting is online, it will be a password-protected intranet site. You'll be provided with a username and password so all registered participants, you have to be a registered participant, and you will receive this with the credentials to access the intranet site. You'll need to access this intranet site already from the time of the pre-meetings in December, and then the username and password will be the same, will be valid for the January meetings of POPRC 16. As usual, the intranet site will contain a number of information, the pre-session documents, in-session documents, that's during the January meetings, the CLPs that will be produced during that week. It will also contain the draft meeting report when that is available, and information on daily schedules, and so on. One other important thing is it will contain the link to the platform that will be used for POPRC 16 and for the pre-meetings. So the platform that will be used for the meeting is Interprefy. This is a platform that is being used quite widely in the UN system, and it provides the opportunity for simultaneous interpretation. And the goal now is to use this same platform also for the sessions in English only, so without interpretation. This would be to facilitate and assist as much as possible parties in order to avoid switching platforms. We're looking still at some of the technical details, and in any case, detailed instructions and guidance on how to participate in the Interprefy sessions will be sent out by email ahead of the meeting. So we're looking at the latest the week 23rd November, in a couple of weeks. And then very important also, there will be a number of test sessions, technical trials that will be organized and set up, and you'll be communicated on. You will receive communication on those also shortly. And this is really important to ensure that participants are technically ready to connect to the platform. And basically, these will be organized according to 3 series. The first set of technical trials will be set up for end of November, just before the pre-meetings. There will be a second series in sort of mid-December after the pre-meetings, in order to make sure and adjust anything that needs to be adjusted in preparation for the January meeting. And there will be another opportunity just before the meeting in January, also to fine-tune and make sure you're all set up. So the exact dates will be communicated to you shortly, and it's really important that you do participate in these trials, because this will really help the smooth running of the meeting in both the pre-meetings and the meeting in January. Just to mention that the access to Interprefy will be through the intranet. There will be a very clear button saying Interprefy, and then so once you're logged into the intranet, you do not need to re-log into Interprefy. So you just log in once to the intranet, and from there you'll automatically be able to access the Interprefy platform. Just a couple of points, but again, during the technical trials, you'll look at these in more detail and the information user guides that will be sent. The Interprefy works on either Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, or Edge browsers. So one of these 3 browsers needs to be installed on your computer. The use of headsets are advisable for clear audio. And if possible, you need to work from a laptop rather than a mobile phone and try and ensure the best possible internet connection to make it as stable as possible. And this is my concluding slide. Some additional information on technical support. This again will be provided to you in writing shortly. Basically, there will be an email, IT support email. There will be a couple of numbers that are shown on the screen, and also a private chat box to raise any technical issues you may have with the technical staff. The private chat box is really used for any technical issues, but not for communicating any issues on the substance. Thank you very much for your attention. And this concludes the presentation and briefing on the POPs Review Committee. I will now pass the ball to my colleague Kay to provide you the next presentation.
Thank you very much for the presentation on the POPs Review Committee. There will be a question and answer session after my presentation, both for POPRC and CRC, so please remember your questions if you have any, or you can also send your questions through the chat messages. For the CRC 16, the meeting has already taken place, as some of you who are attending this webinar was also a participant of this meeting. It took place on from 8 to 11 September 2020, and for the same reason that we are experiencing COVID-19 pandemic, that the meeting was held online. It was chaired by Zuki from South Africa, and we had 114 participants, and this was a record-breaking number for CRC 16 meetings. Despite the fact that the meeting was online, the committee was able to adopt 2 draft decision guidance documents and reviewed one final regulatory action that was concerning PFOA. The committee also agreed on time schedule for intersessional task group between CRC 16 and 17. The draft decision guidance document for DECA BDE, this was the notification submitted by Japan, Norway, and Canada, and which was reviewed at CRC 15. The notification concerned the industrial chemical category, and the draft decision guidance document prepared during the intersessional period between CRC 15 and 16 was considered at the CRC 16 meeting, and with few amendments, the document was adopted by the committee. This was forwarded to the COP10 in 2021. This will take place from 19 to 30 July 2021 for consideration for possible adoption of draft DGD and also listing of this chemical in Annex 3 to the Convention in industrial category. Another chemical that the committee considered was perfluorooctanoic acid, PFOA, its salts, and PFOA-related compounds. The notification was submitted by Canada and Norway and reviewed at CRC 14, and committee had already recommended listing those chemicals in Annex 3, prepared the draft decision guidance document, and adopted it in 2019 at CRC 15 meeting. Since then, the Secretariat received a new notification from Norway, replacing the previous notification. So at the CRC 16, the committee reviewed the new notification of Norway and evaluated that notification against Annex 2 criteria. The committee concluded that the notification met all Annex 2 criteria and recommended listing this chemical, PFOA, with CAS number 335671, its salts and PFOA-related compounds in Annex 3 to the Convention as industrial chemicals. The definition of the substances was one of the issues that the committee discussed extensively, and in the decision that it adopted, the committee noted that the definition of PFOA, its salts, and PFOA-related compounds was indeed provided in the draft DGD, and that the definition covered a large number of chemicals, and therefore an exhaustive list of CAS numbers was not available. The committee recommended that the COP decides listing of this chemical. If it so decides to list those chemicals, then it should consider requesting the Secretariat to prepare, in consultation with the CRC, an indicative list of PFOA, its salts, and PFOA-related compounds, which is a very similar approach that the Stockholm Convention has took in consultation with the POPRC. The committee adopted a revised version of draft DGD, and it decided to forward it to the Conference of the Parties at its 10th meeting for consideration. Those were the decisions that were taken at CRC 16, but in preparation to the next meeting, CRC 17, the committee also agreed to look at the notifications that were already submitted prior to CRC 16. The Secretariat has received final regulatory actions on 7 pesticides, and this was prior to CRC 16, but since the meeting was an online setting, that the committee decided to discuss this, consider those chemicals in a later stage. Therefore, we do have the notifications for those 7 pesticides. They are Calvaril, Iprodion, Terpufos, and Chlorphenlimpos, Iovicarb, and Methylparathion. There was another substance that was notified, but it was verified that the notification did not have the 2 matching substances, and therefore it was concluded that those 7 substances are indeed under review by CRC. And as noted in this slide, in order to deal with heavy workload, because there might be additional chemicals that could be forwarded to CRC, between now and April time, 2021. And therefore, the Bureau suggested to bringing forward the intersessional work on those substances. The review of those notifications have already started. We are preparing a draft preliminary review, and Bureau will meet to look at preliminary review of those substances in December. And further work by intersessional task groups will take place until April 2021. And so the review is carried out by those task group members composed of CRC members. This will be decided by the Bureau at its meeting. And then the task group report will also be made available to parties and observers for comments during the period in March 2021. As I noted earlier, there might be additional chemicals that need to be considered at CRC 17. The cutoff date for identifying additional chemicals is end of April, because those substances need to be included in the next June 2021 version of the PIC circular. So if there are such chemicals that has 2 notifications from at least 2 PIC regions, then those will also be could be considered by CRC. Next slide. Other information is provided in this my last slide. As noted, the CRC 17 is tentatively scheduled for from 20 to 24 September 2021 in Italy, Rome, back to back with POPRC 17. Yes, this was the end of my presentation on CRC 16 debriefing. Thank you very much for your attention. And I now bring my ball back to Alan for